what about this copy communicates average folks?
I think it's the ages and we'll get to this in a minute, but like the more ultra specific you can get is one way to do it. So like he picked people that have, average jobs, they're a county judge and a rancher from Texas, they're real estate appraiser. They're not billionaires, they're not princes or kings or anything like that. So like I feel it's a lot more powerful. I mean, you can definitely use authority, which is kind of, or rich people as social proof, but you just got to be careful on that because a lot of people do not identify with the wealthy and powerful. They consider themselves average, and
Right.
they're going to be more. It's going to increase their belief more if they saw people like themselves that had similar success.
Yeah, a good quote from a guy we both like, Blair Warren. He used to say that if the prospect doesn't identify with you, you probably won't influence them.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably worth. If they don't identify, you probably won't influence them. So even like in copy where, let's say I'm running for myself or someone's running for me and they're building up the status and the authority and the celebrity of Jason Capital, we still have to tell the stories and share those little vulnerabilities that make the prospect still identify with me. You never want to be so out of reach that they can't identify with you. Like there's a guy, some of you guys probably know, Kino Body, who sells like fat loss stuff and health stuff to like guys in their 20s. And Ryan, you'll probably get a kick out of this. So I've talked to him a few times. His name's Greg. He's in his late 20s. His dad passed away when he was younger, but his dad was super, super wealthy. And he left him basically a castle where he lives now. And he made a video talking about how he uses keto, like the diet ketosis, to lose all this weight. And he does intermittent fasting. And this is the secret to living this amazing life and having this body. And someone made a parody of his video. And they're like, hi, my name's Greg. And I discovered the secret to living an amazing life, having rich parents. Having rich parents is the single greatest discovery of my life. Like, and it's so funny the way that they do it, right? It's like the greatest discovery ever. Having rich parents is the best thing you can do, right? And but they're joking with it because the average prospect cannot identify with him because how many of us have rich dads that leave us castles? Like my dad's the worst, right? So the identification part is really important, and the average folks thing here it's really, really crucial.
You can actually use, if you have them, real customer testimonials. Those are probably the most powerful thing you have. Like, and if it's a new product, you might not have those, so you might have to rely on borrowed. But you want to make sure you collect those. That's how you get those, by asking your customers to give you testimonials. So, or they might send them in unsolicited, but you got to keep them then. So it's like, hopefully I'll use to giving you examples of how to get these things and have them available. Another way of social proof is media mentions. Like, depends on your audience. Maybe they don't believe the fake news at all, but I think a lot of people still believe that if the media says something, it's true. So even though our audience at Agora Financial, our customers, even though they probably hate the Washington Post, the fact that whatever the secret is causing some people to become millionaires overnight, they're still going to believe that. If it says something like, Donald Trump's an idiot, then they probably wouldn't believe it. But in this case, like, they're going to believe it because they really want to believe that it's possible to become a millionaire overnight, and it's just a validation to them that it's possible.
They're super hypocritical when it comes to.
Well, it's just so funny because a lot of Agora Financial stuff is like this is like the media's lying to you, but then we'll use the media as proof that to make it.
Yeah, when they want to believe it, it's a great source of proof, and when they don't want to believe it, it's bullshit, right?
It goes to prove. It's the proof that it's all emotional. It's not a logical, factual decision, a rational decision for somebody. And that's what you always have to keep in mind. Is like, if you think about it too logically, you're not going to really get it, and they're not going to get it either, because it's not facts. It just needs to feel right to them, not to it's not about you. It's about the customer. And
in this case here, like, could someone, like, you can't just take stuff from the media and use that as proof, right? Like, you can't say the Washington Post believes this is a great product. When you go into these media mentions, what do you, like, are you looking for them to they offer proof about the mechanism, about the secret, like that kind of stuff?
Yeah, exactly. And it'll make more sense maybe when we get into the mechanism aspect of it, but like, cool. But you could use it for anything too. Like, if you're using a fact of like, the fastest way to get rich is to start your own business, like that fact or whatever, like, it would help to be like, like, and Forbes agrees, and then you like say a quote from like Forbes magazine backing you up. So it doesn't necessarily have to be, it could be any kind of claim you're making. And just, that's just a real easy way to back up, especially like claims about the world, like about factual things. Like, you can just claim it, or you can just have someone in the media claim it. And, as long, again, it's not like emotionally charged, or, I mean, if it's just like a common fact, then no one's going to dispute that, if the Forbes said it's true and you say it's true, it's probably true. So this is kind of a little bit contrary to the average folks. We can also borrow celebrity and authority figures as well. Like, in this case, it was actually President Obama, which is kind of hilarious given how, like, Grandpa Kurt really did not like President Obama. But if he got rich, then they were actually willing to learn more because they want to be rich too. Politics aside, that's, that, in fact, all these examples here are Democrats, which is kind of really interesting because it was aimed at conservative type readers. Bill Clinton, Al Gore, and Obama. I mentioned before, like, a highly believable source, an authority figure. If that's yourself, figure out how to reframe yourself so you're an authority figure. I mean, a lot of that's just having a really compelling story. But it could also be credentials. It could be exploits. It could be titles. It could be books you've written. But if you're writing about somebody else, then to have those things just makes it even more believable.
And one thing I'll add to this, obviously, like I think most people here know the importance of, especially if it's like a guru-based product that you're selling, like an author or an expert or an influencer or something, building up the credibility of that person is obviously really important. But this was a mistake I made for a while, is especially I was writing copy for me, I'd talk about, Jason Capital has been recognized as a top 100 entrepreneur by the White House and is a best-selling author and is a guest contributor to Forbes and CNBC and Money Magazine, right? Like those are all credentials and that's all good, but the audience doesn't really give a fuck about that stuff. They want to know that it's there because they want to know, okay, that other people believe this person's worth listening to. But I always want to frame this section of stuff as I know a secret that they don't, but they really want to know. Like I am someone who knows something that they should know also. Right? And that to me is when you take credibility to the next level.
The more specifics you can make your proof, the better. In this case, you can see like it's 1.3 million supercomputers. It's not 1 million or a lot of supercomputers. It's a very specific number. The specific date there. It's going to happen sometime in 2015 or sometime in the future. It's very specific. So more ultra specific. We'll get more into this, especially when you get to lead writing, like how critical that is. But the more specific, and you get that by doing your research. Like obviously this person didn't make it up because those numbers are really specific. They must be coming from some sort of source that I'm assuming he didn't make those up. I think he couldn't because it's an Agora offer and our legal department would check it. So somehow he's able to find out that 575 million, exactly that many people will get whatever this thing is happening on the specific date by the specific time frame. Visual aids are really powerful forms of proof. If you remember on Canadian Social Security, I don't think it showed up on screen, but there was just a Canadian flag was on that original promotion. I mean, that little element of just a Canadian flag just really put it over the top because obviously Canadian Social Security must be real because there's the maple leaf flag right there. So it's a real government program from a different country. Metaphors and analogies can be really powerful forms of proof. That's how you make things understandable and emotional. Reason why copy, another form of proof. That's just by backing up. Usually the magic word in that is like because. That's why is another kind of word you can look for to figure out, where did that claim come from? Like, how do you follow that actually chain of logic?
One thing I'll say here, like for the metaphor analogy part, so everyone's clear, like remember what Ryan said about proof at the beginning, right? You're not a lawyer in a court of law, like getting factual proof. That's not really what you're doing. And a lawyer, by the way, a good court lawyer or case lawyer knows that they win the case by having the best emotional argument for a jury anyways, right? They know it's not true. But it's like, it's again, it's not about having the best factual proof. It's about building belief and certainty in the prospect, right? Belief, that's what it's about. So if there's some concept they don't understand, and then you can explain it to them in some way where they go, oh, I get it. What did you just do? You implanted some more certainty in them. They're like, I get it. And the minute they get it, now they have a little bit more belief, a little bit more certainty in how it actually works, right? That's why these metaphors and analogies are a form of proof.
Yeah, so someone said dumb it down. It's not exactly true. I'd probably reframe that as simplify. You want to simplify as much as possible. Because I think dumbing it down is kind of puts you in the wrong frame where you're detracting content when really you're actually probably increasing emotion and understanding, which is really probably adding content. So it's not as much dumbing down as simplifying, which is actually really hard to do. Most people do not simplify, and that's why most people are not understood because they're very hard to follow because it's very complex. So we'll go through the rest of these because I believe you guys got this handout. We'll go over mechanisms in a minute. That'll make more sense after that. Studies, investigations. One thing you can always do is you can actually frame your actual research you're doing for your sales letter as an investigation, which is kind of what Jason did with the Copy Badass offer, where it's like, like he did an investigation into how Agora Financial ran their business. I mean, so if you could frame the research you're doing actually as a research project, but people just believe studies, that kind of ties to academic proof.
Yeah. And remember this, like the person reading the copy, their life is really boring, right? They wake up, boring breakfast, brush their boring teeth, go to the same boring job, do the same boring conversations with boring coworkers every day. And they maybe get a boring workout in at a whatever boring gym. They have a boring dinner. They watch a boring Netflix show. They go to bed in their boring bed. Maybe they have some boring sex and they wake up and they do it all over again the next day. That's the doldrum life for most people. They want to believe that you or the person writing this copy is living this adventurous life on the edge where you're constantly breaking into the CIA and going to Agora and investigating and going to professor's office at Duke and banging on their door. Like you're out there, you're the crusader at the front, researching, investigating, discovering all these things. And now they're lucky enough that you're sharing their most recent investigation and findings with you. Like that just adds so much proof and so much interest and so much intrigue into the story than just saying like, here's another way to make money. right? Like they want to feel like you were Sherlock Holmes for 3 weeks and you just made this great discovery and you can't wait to share it with them, right? That's kind of the idea. And I love, this is something I learned from Agora is they frame so much as what they do. Like all of you as sales detectives now, you're all doing research. So you are all researchers now, right? So in all of your copy, you can frame what you do the same way Agora does as research projects. You can say things like during my investigation, and here's what my findings are, right? We just did an offer, we're actually releasing it next week about this voice tonality thing. And I had my sales detective, I had him actually, like, this is where we take proof to the next level, because in my opinion, as I teach my copy, because proof is God in copy. It's the whole thing. We just need better proof than everyone else and we'll win. So I had him take basically the 10 biggest sales gurus online, Jordan Belfort, Dan Locke, Grant Cardone, Gary Vaynerchuk, and so on. I had him take their voices, their tonalities, and take them to a sound engineer and have the sound engineer take the voice tonalities and put them through a Fourier analysis to see, are they all using the same tonality when they're selling you on stuff? Is this how they actually make their millions? And the studies found that's exactly what they do. They're all talking in the same tone. So now we have charts. We have the story of going to the sound engineer's lab. He's on this research thing. He got his crazy discovery. Like, how much better is that than just saying, hey, yeah, they did a study at Duke. Here's what you should do. Like, not even close.
Yeah. Acknowledging disbelief, candor is another form of proof. Acknowledging disbelief kind of seems backwards, but in some ways it actually increases belief. Damaging admissions can be very powerful. If you think about the lead for the copy badass offer, like there's a damaging admission in there, like of, you know, like you have to follow these qualifications. There's already like some fine print right in the lead of, you know, like it's not gonna work for everybody. You have to have the qualifications first. Like that's another way of really increasing belief.
Yep.
Identity, which Jason already talked about, like that's really powerful. Like people, it's in the book Persuasion, like Scott Adams talks about it as well, that people just want to believe people like themselves. And as this world gets more and more, or this country gets more and more fractured into different groups and factions, that's just the sad reality is like people want people like themselves. And so the more you can position yourself or the person you're trying to sell or the worldview of whatever the product is to be in line with your prospect's view, just the more believable it's going to be. And you can see this great piece of copy here from it was for like how to grow your own food inside your house. It was aimed like conservative people, and it's written like a crazy West Virginia hillbilly, because that's what they're kind of trying to aim their copy at, you know.
Dude, I'm thinking this is so good.
Like a straw hat and like a loaded shotgun on his porch, you know.
That's not lot. Yeah, this is so good.
Next, I put science in quotes because you got to be careful on that. People don't really like science; they like being wowed by the future, but you don't really want. It's, you know, like all the stuff here sounds kind of great about this new technology, but it's probably not scientific. Just for anyone out who is like an engineer or a doctor or something, they're probably reading this being like, "What the? That's not even fucking true." But like, it's trying to simplify it down and just make it exciting. And yeah, someone said people prefer magic over science. Absolutely true. They just want magic to be called science. So the more scientific sounding you can make it, the more powerful it is. I mean, it should be based on reality, of course, based on science. But how you present it, you know, most people, they don't understand science, and it's not really appropriate in a sales letter to try to teach somebody something, because you're really just trying to get them emotionally involved so they can make a purchase. So they're not even interested in the real science behind it. They just want it to sound scientific. So,
they just want to know it's there. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so like, how can you simplify, like, and this might matter if you're doing a health kind of offer, like a supplement offer, or like a fitness thing. Like, can you describe the science behind whatever your mechanism is, which we'll get to in a minute, in a way that you're just giving them enough where it looks like they could feel strong belief that what you're saying isn't complete bullshit. The same thing with logic. Actually, in copy, a lot of what we use is actually false logic. We're begging the question. We're violating all the fallacies you learned about, like in 10th grade civics or debate club or something. But it should look like it should feel like it's logical. You know, it should make sense to somebody on an emotional level, and not, you know, it may not make. It probably is violating all the laws of logic and all logical fallacies, but we basically run our lives based on logical fallacies. No one is logical. We're all emotional creatures.
Yeah, and a good example of this, there was a supplement years ago. They sold a ton of it. The headline and the idea was sharks don't get cancer, right? And they sold shark cartilage, and the logic is, oh, if I take shark cartilage, I won't get cancer either, right?
Right.
If there's any scientists here, or there's any non-scientists here, both of you can agree that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Right? Sharks don't get cancer. What does that possibly have to do with you and I? Like, but it sold millions of bottles of this stuff because it sounds logical, right? Another one is why French women don't get fat.
Yeah.
Right. And you gotta eat like them, right? It sounds logical. It's not logical, but it sounds logical. So you're gonna get really, really good at putting together phrases and ideas like this that sound logical, and you're like, fuck, I get that totally. And you have to say it with a straight face. That's part of what copy is saying bullshit and saying it with a straight face.
Yeah. Well, the impact system is false logic. I mean, just because Jim Rickards could predict when airplanes are going to hit buildings, what does that have to do with the fact you're making money from the currency markets? It has nothing to do whatsoever. But it feels like you read it, and enough people believe it, where it's like, well, if he's smart enough to do that, then he must be smart enough to do something. I don't even, the conversations don't even go through people's head if you do it correctly. They just believe it. You don't want people really thinking in copy for the most part. You just want them emotionally engaged.